Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Wolff Den. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we got Harold Hughes, founder and CEO of Bandwagon. Harold, welcome to the Wolff Den.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Well, let's get right into it here. Got a lot to talk about today. Tell everybody about Bandwagon and what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, so I started Bandwagon right after I finished my MBA at Clemson. I'm a proud Clemson grad. And really the beginning was trying to figure out how to connect people and create better community at live events. One of the things I often like to reference is that Sunday mornings are often probably the most divided and segregated our country ever is, from socioeconomic status to religion to race to geography. But when it comes to a college football game on a Saturday or a hockey game on a Sunday afternoon or baseball, you've got people from all different backgrounds, personal beliefs, walks of life, hugging and high-fiving because their team scored a game-winning point, or at a concert where you're arms around a stranger singing the same lyrics to a song. So I really love the ability to pull those types of people together at live events, but I realized there were some challenges that existed in the industry. And so it's been really unique to navigate this space, especially during COVID-19, which I'm sure we'll get into. And so, yeah, it's just really been thinking through how we support the ecosystem. So Bandwagon is the name of the company. We've got two products. One is Aura, which is a fan identity and attendee analytics tool. So we work with festivals, major sports teams, and so on and so forth to help them know who's in their venue on the day of the event. And then last year, we actually acquired a company called Ideal Seat, so we could deliver what we consider an Eventbrite competitor to help your experience creators and event organizers really curate smaller events and connect with their audience. Simple ticketing, secure ticketing, and customizable so they maintain their brand. So we've been really fortunate to kind of be on the other side of this thing, as many of our friends and peers, haven't been as lucky. And so to still be here has been awesome, and we're glad to still be contributing to the ecosystem.
And Ideal Seat is how you and I got introduced through Joel.
Yeah. So Joel's a good friend of ours. We were actually Ideal Seat's first paying customer back in like 2015 or something like that. And then when we pivoted out of being a band, we were B2C fan-facing ticket marketplace. We actually started as like a StubHub competitor, but our difference was we could help fans protect home field advantage when they were reselling their tickets. And after a while, we realized the margins were low. That space is incredibly competitive, and we just couldn't keep going. So
it's
we
like
thought,
if the team doesn't care, why should I?
Exactly. And that was it. Like, we literally sat with athletic directors who were just like, I don't care. I sold the ticket once. I don't care who has it now. And so we're like, all right, well, this is going to make this very difficult. So when we pivoted, we just stayed close with the folks at Ideal Seat, Joel and his team. And so when we had the opportunity to be aggressive and make that offer, we pulled it off, and we've been glad to be able to carry that banner since then. So when you see on idealseat.com, when you see the little bird, it's actually paying respects to the old Ideal Seat logo, but how we did our design of that bird. So if you see the old Ideal Seat logo and ours, you'll see there's a little subtleties there on how we wanted to shout them out and support them. Now that we don't.
We love shout outs and memorabilia here. My buddy Corey, thanks for tuning in. He wants to know if I'm going to the Parmalee show on Saturday. We got a country concert here down in South Florida. We don't have the snow that you guys are having right now.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. We've got a good bit of snow outside. My son was playing yesterday. We tried to build a snowman, but he didn't have the patience for it. But no, it's been a blast for him. We've been we've been fortunate. We haven't lost power. A lot of our neighbors here in Austin have, and so there's a lot of challenges going on. So we've been really fortunate to still have power, and so we're just kind of staying hunkered down, my wife and I and our kiddo.
So I never like to shy away from anything. So two topics based on what we've talked about already. I want your opinion on this, because we don't talk about it enough. When we talk about college football, and you talked about country being divided and all that, and you look at places like Alabama, who have some of the most racist people, right? I mean, I guess that's generalizing, but the South can be pretty racist, right? Is that
right?
Point? And so you have these guys who live and die by Alabama football, powered by predominantly black people.
Yeah.
So how does that even work? Is it's like, okay, if they're my black people, they're fine, but if they're not, and we watched. Did you see the movie One Night in Miami?
I haven't seen it yet. I got One Night in Miami on my list. I've got Black Messiah on my list. So those are two that I'm going to watch. I have not watched either yet.
One Night in Miami is very good. It's very thought provoking. There is a scene in there that just really shows you like, hey, I love you being my running back, but let's keep that separate. So
right, I think there's two things there. So I mean, one, I think there's racism everywhere, given how systemic it is. And so while growing up in South Carolina, I can recognize what it looks like in the South, where you would see a Confederate flag flying in someone's front yard. You're like, oh, we don't go there for Halloween. Like, just a heads up. Whereas in other places, racism looks like charging more for interest rates on a loan, or it's making it really difficult to get a job. So I get that. When it comes to the football aspect and thinking through that, I think that it just comes down to a suspension of reality. Oftentimes people, because racism is irrational by default, you've got people who are saying, this group of people can only provide X value to me and my livelihood, my whatever. And so you're viewed in that lens. And so to the point you just made about that movie quote, that person say, look, as my running back, you're the best in the country. And I love that. But maybe they don't want to be out having dinner together with their families or something to that effect. So I think that's one of the things that I recognize so much, especially as a Black startup founder, was understanding that I'll walk through walk through an airport wearing a Clemson hoodie. Normally I'm wearing some Clemson paraphernalia. I'm actually wearing a Clemson hoodie, Clemson pants, and I'm wearing some Clemson stance socks right now. Yeah, I'm bundled up today. But if I'm walking through an airport now, Matt, mind you, I am like 5'11", like barely. And I could be wearing this stuff, and someone's like, "Oh my gosh, did you go to Clemson?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Did you play on the football team?" I was like, "At 5'11", like statistically, probably not. Like that, the odds are low that a 5'10" person, 5'11" person would be on the football team. And so it's like, that doesn't make much sense. What else is the reason here? And so it's that subtle. And so I think about that, and it's like, okay, and everything that I do, I understand like, oh, this is a new phenomenon. It's like, no, actually, I went to Clemson. I've got 3 degrees, 2 bachelors that I got in 4 years, 1 an MBA, and I sit on the board of the College of Business. Like, that's actually my relationship to the organization, the institution. So it's just really interesting.
Yeah. So when you watch the thing, I was just surprised that they didn't sort of go further with it and kind of revisit that part. But you'll know what I'm talking about when you see the show. My friend Brent says hi, and he also says that we lost our Alabama viewers, which we don't care. It's no secret that the South is built on racism, so we call it how it is. And if the Alabama viewers don't want to tune in or buy my stuff, then they don't want to.
I think the Alabama viewers who understand what you're saying are still with us. So we appreciate everybody rocking with us, because I think that's the thing, is that we can't even acknowledge that wall behind you is blue, then we can't move forward, right? And so being able to address what exists starts here, and then from there it's like, what is it? And then now you address how you deal with it. So yeah, I'm sure that we still got plenty of folks in Alabama tuned in.
Yeah, but probably no one from Alabama was watching in the first place. Although Brian Paul, who I grew up with and went to University of Florida with, he went to UAB.
Okay,
and he's Orthodox Jew. All right, and he meets this girl, his wife Jen, who might never have even met a Jewish person in her life. Mm-hmm. They get married. Now she's Orthodox and they have 8 kids.
Right.
So it's like, he hopefully he's tuning in somewhere. My friends can tell him that we gave Brian a nice shout. Hey, we got a visitor here.
Yeah.
Tell us who's
okay. Yeah, it's the kiddo.
What I love about, doing this show and being live and, talking about whatever we want, where I don't give you questions. Like, because every time, it's funny, and I wrote stuff down here. Every time someone says something, I have like 6 follow-up questions that go in different directions. And I'm like,
that's how conversations work. I love it. I love it.
There's a funny episode of the show here where it happened that way. And then I had like 15 seconds of not remembering what the heck I was about to ask them. But so let's talk about, you talk about the wall being blue, and this will tie into Austin somehow. Politics, right? Mm-hmm. We have this whole thing that went on in DC, and the attorney for Trump says he won't even acknowledge that it was an insurrection.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, well, what? The conversation's over, right? Because the definition of an insurrection is January 6th. I mean, we can really put that in an encyclopedia. So words meaning things. And so the problem with the conversation about anything you want to do is, and I keep saying this every time, is we have to have a conversation from the middle when all the conversations are from the left or all the conversations are from the right. And generally, the people can't come and have a conversation. Like you and I can talk about this all day because, you know, most of the stuff we say we're going to both agree on. And the stuff that we don't agree on, we can have a civil conversation about. So now you go to Austin and you guys are in Texas and you guys are getting pelted with this winter stuff, right? And Ted Cruz wants to get some help from the government, right? Mm-hmm. But what did he do 2 years ago when New Jersey had a hurricane? He voted against it.
Yep. And that's the thing. I think that the challenge that we deal with is the humanity aspect of this. And I think that while, you know, I'm having a conversation on Clubhouse in a few weeks where we're talking about being able to suspend your personal beliefs, or if you don't, how do your personal beliefs impact how you lead your business? And that's going to be a conversation we'll be having later, probably sometime in March. And I think about that in that, like, what do you do if you were the person in the situation versus what do you do if you're the person on the outside looking in? And that's an example of saying, if we're looking at this from a humanity standpoint, the strategy or the approach or the answer would be the same every time. But when you get into politics, when you get into business, in some cases, there's like, well, this actually benefits me, so I'm going to do it this way. And that's the challenge I think is kind of tough to, I mean, where do you go from there?
But that's a great point. So the two of the biggest principles in my life are the golden rule and for the greater good. But I can tell you right now, I'm a hypocrite. There are things that I say this, and this, and then, you know, it's right in front of me and you'd be like, no, I'm not going to do it. Or I don't think this so it's a lot easier to just talk about what you think and then to actually live in it and doing it. And I'll be the first to tell you there's things that I say one thing and then I try not to have it that way. But think about this. Like if I say, hey, for $1 million, would you do X, Y, Z? And you'd be like, no, forget about it. But now you got $1 million right on your table here and it's real.
Right.
Like, you know what? It's not hurting anyone. It's not illegal.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think this is the tough part about it. And unfortunately, I think we're in a space where over the last decade or so, the ability to have conversations has been eroded. Not only because we aren't able to agree on words and what they mean and definitions of them, you know, an insurrection or whatever. I think the other part of it is just being willing to come to that table, not necessarily listening to respond, but listening to understand. And then that way we kind of take away, like, one of my first memories as a kid was I actually started school in Jamaica, and I came back to the United States and had this really thick Jamaican accent, and the kids didn't understand me, and they would call me dumb. And so I remember telling my mom, like, Mom, these kids think I'm dumb. And she's like, but you're not dumb. And I said, I know, but if they think I am, I am. And at a young age, I really got hung up on this idea of being understood. So much so that I was in speech and debate class and public speaking and thought I was going to be a lawyer because I really wanted to be understood. And so it wasn't as much as like, I want to have this argument so I can win. I just want you to see where I'm coming from. Yeah. See where I'm coming from. And at the end of the day, you're still saying, hey, that's fine. But for me, that was one of the biggest challenges that I had to like overcome.
Like, imagine if you could go back. Oh, this will be a good question. I probably should ask everyone, but imagine if you can go back to when that was, knowing what you know now, to know like their opinion means nothing. Like they're the dumb ones, right? But you don't understand that until you're older and you have these things that could be very traumatic. I mean, I don't know how traumatic that was. You know, it obviously wasn't nothing, but it could have been very traumatic. So, you know, and when your parents tell you the exact same thing that you would tell yourself, you'll be like, you know, that's what they have to say. They're my parents, blah, blah, blah. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the key is that those people who are in that class with me probably have the ability to hire people. They probably have the ability to impact the rates that someone gets on their mortgage. And so I think that when you don't get a chance to educate and deal with those conversations at the time that you're having them, there's a lot of folks who may be missing out on that ability to be enlightened. Unfortunately, there's a challenge of like, are people actually interested and willing? But you know, I try and make sure I'm willing. If I'm willing to have the conversation, great. If they're willing to have the conversation, great. And then we have it. But I'm definitely not in the interest of like, oh, I'm going to try and educate someone who's not interested. So
they have to want to be, you know, you're not going to change their mind. And that's, you have to, that's why I think we need to find the new voice of the people who are willing to say, you know what, maybe you're right. Or maybe we should be talking about this. Let's talk a little bit about Clubhouse. You're big on Clubhouse and very active on Clubhouse. it's funny. I mentioned this. Have you connected with China yet? China Morgan?
I don't think so.
Oh, we gotta connect you too. Anyway,
Okay.
China's the best. She's we're a big fan of China here at Wolff Den. She's joined a couple of our networking events. My whole family loves China.
Awesome.
That's China Morgan, not the country China. So we don't want anyone come. Not that we have anything against the country China if they're listening in here. But anyway, so it's funny because when I found out about Clubhouse from you, and I'm like, well, how can I get an invite? And then I talked to China, and she's like, yeah, I can get you an invite once I have them. And I signed up, and then I'm like, well, is this like a black thing? And I'm just not getting invited. And I'm like, no, it's not. But it's very, there's a foundation of black people. It seems like being the originators of it, and a lot of content in there. And it sounds like a lot of content that you do is geared towards black people, and that's great, right? Pick your people and support them, whatever it is. If it's all black people, if it's all sports people, if it's all internet, whatever it is. Do you find that you're doing more targeted stuff for black people than just in general? Is that what you see on your feed? Because your feed is going to be different than my feed.
Yeah. So to catch everyone up, Clubhouse is an audio chat app. It is invite only right now. It's not publicly available. It's only on iOS devices. So I use it on my iPad because I'm actually an Android user. But yeah, I agree. I think that when you joined, Bomani X was probably the app icon, a black man. And so that was super cool. A lot of people thought like, oh, is this app black owned? Paul is a white man. Rohan is a man of color. But looking at the influence of black creatives across the platform is just undeniable, whether it's the Lion King performance that they had in December, led by Noel Chestnut, or what Bomani has done, all these different folks. So I think it's interesting when you think about like the way in which content creators provide value. And then we just happen to be on there at that time when you're starting to see people creatively use this tool. And that's where it's like most startups or companies that come up with a product and say, I want it to be used this way. But then it gets in the hands of consumers and customers. And at that point, you lose control. At that point, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know we would do this with this or this with this or this with this. And so for me, as I've gone on the platform, I got on, I think, in May.
That's a long time.
Yeah, because I think they kind of launched it in April. And so I got on in May. And for me, overall, I understood, like I spent about a decade in corporate America. I understand there are unwritten rules to these games that we play. And oftentimes the rules that are written by white men or people who don't look like me. When I think about the number of women, people of color, LGBTQ community, disabled, all these different folks who are traditionally marginalized and left out of a lot of conversations, the rules and playbooks aren't written by them. And so therefore, those strategies don't necessarily work. And you can think about that from a sports analogy. It's like you could try and run the Golden State offense if you want to, but if you don't have Steph Curry, it's probably not going to look as good. It's probably not going to work out that way. And that's kind of what I see happening in the startup space. So I've made it my mission to focus on amplifying the work of Black and Brown founders, women founders, and really thinking through what resources we need to not only level the playing field and get equitable access to the things that we should have, but also like how do we tell our stories in a way that, forget inspiring can happen. I'm good with that. I care more about information. Like one of the things I often say is we need to treat information more like a library and less like a vault. There's no reason for me to learn something and then hoard it to myself and keep it away from you. I should want to share it with you to help you overcome obstacles and challenges and things like that. And so one of the reasons I use Clubhouse in the way that I use it is that these conversations, if you think about even the folklore type nature of the South and all these different cultures, whether we look at Africa or the indigenous people here, a lot of word of mouth and storytelling like help people survive and thrive and be successful. So for us, I'm looking like, well, Clubhouse, serendipitous, you have to be there to hear it. Like we don't have to worry about this and you can have real conversations. And so for that, I say, cool, let's do a Black Founders Club about this. Now, at the same point, I understand there's a lot of folks who can be learning and being educated in that same respect. And so now there's a couple other clubs that I host conversations with, one of which is the Community Club. And so we're hosting a weekly show called Creating Community With, where the goal is going to be connecting with audiences and groups of people to learn more about their perspective, the things they're going through, the things that they need help with, and how you can actually create community and collaborate with them. And so that's one of the things I kind of think through. So I'm a big fan of Clubhouse. I think it's been a great resource and tool, especially during the pandemic.
I mean, social media it's, you know, you watch the Social Network, and I talked about this. It's great and it's terrible all at once. And there's, you know, it just depends how you use it. And if other people are not able to abuse it. Did you watch The Social Experiment or on
The Social Dilemma?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things I found so fascinating about it was how the shame that these people had for this great thing that they created because of the people who are using it in the way that it wasn't intended. And you know, I was going to post this probably on LinkedIn this week.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling Clubhouse invites on eBay.
Yeah.
Like, and not even just for $5, $20. Someone has one on for $3,500.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, people are paying something, and that's the thing. I think that the challenge here is that you've got so many people who desire information, so many people who desire knowledge, and then other people who just desire adjacency to success that they are literally willing to pay. And so that's when you think about the challenges that exist, when you think about the inequities that exist in this country. It's like, it's not that people don't want to learn these things, it's that they've been put on the highest shelf possible and no one has given them the resources, the ladder or the stool in that case, to get access to that information. And so when they think about Clubhouse being this new thing, it's like, well, if I could pay this much, and now you've got challenges where people are on Clubhouse and we've got scammers where someone's like, buy my ebook and this will tell you this. I think someone just paid, I just heard a story. I don't know if it is true, but I just heard that someone paid like £7,000 for like a Clubhouse course on how to master Clubhouse. And so that to me is
get it for free.
Yeah, and that to me is where the challenges exist. So yeah, man,
my favorite part about eBay is that if you look at some of the listings, they charge shipping for it too. I think $4. It was like $4.17 for shipping on top of the $2,500 for the invite.
Yeah.
Is that great? Brent wants to know what Clubhouse is. He just explained it, what Clubhouse is. Yeah,
Clubhouse is an audio chat app. It is invite only, and so it's called a drop-in audio chat. So you could imagine it being like, and it is synchronous. So it's not like a podcast where I can go listen to it later. It's this conversation right now, but if both of us had our cameras off, that's what Clubhouse would be. And people can drop in and jump out, and you can bring people up and participate. It's actually pretty cool. There's definitely some other audio chat apps out there, but Clubhouse has definitely gotten most of the notoriety.
There's a guy on there called Lidor, Lidor. He comes in all the rooms. He's like, yeah, I actually have my own audio chat thing. We've been around for like 5 years.
Limor,
Limor, Limor, or Limur, or L-I-D.
I don't know. There's a guy named Allende that has a company called Needle.
No,
Nedl.
L-I, I don't know. Anyway, he's got another one. I think it's good. I think it's bad. We'll see what happens. There's a lot. I mean, it's in beta, so they need to fix a lot of things. And
there's a lot that needs to be done
in order to get that kind of interest at this point in time, without even having, you know, done the funding where someone's going to buy. I mean, they're talking about $1 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion to buy it.
Right.
I don't know the value in that, but I guess the value is in the followers that people have.
The engagement, man. People are using this thing like crazy. I was hosting a room yesterday, and a couple of people said their first few nights they were on it for 14 hours a day.
I know that people are staying on it for crazy hours, and you could leverage it for what you want. I mean, look, at the end of the day, no one's paying $1 billion for Clubhouse if they're not getting their money's worth, right? It's like stadium naming rights. You're like, this company paid what to have their name on the stadium? But they've all done the calculations and figured out, hey, this is going to be a good value for us because it's a lot of money, and, you know, a lot of bad can happen. So we got Harold Hughes here from Bandwagon. We're talking Clubhouse. Let's get a little bit back more into Bandwagon. You talked about the two products that you have.
Yeah.
You know, do you have a focus on one or the other? What are you working on for these businesses that people should be looking forward to, and what kind of help? Like, what do you need to grow either one of these businesses?
Yeah, so when we started Bandwagon, we really want to figure out how to create better experiences for fans that were attending live events. And so getting them there to engage with one another. So that's when we had Aura, our fan identity and attendee analytics tool. And that was what we created. But as the world kind of changed and we ran into COVID-19, we were getting prepared for the fact that major events, professional sports, major festivals weren't going to exist. And so when we acquired Ideal Seat in Q1 of last year, it was with the intent that, and we've seen it play out, right? A lot of the friends and family that we have on social media, it's not that they didn't go to any live events last year. They just went to smaller ones. And those were hosted on Splash, Eventbrite, and some other places, as well as virtual. So when we acquired Ideal Seat, the goal was, how do we create a tool that allows those event organizers and experience creators to connect with their audience, still same value proposition, but help them do it in a way that is simple, so easy to use, secure, which most people don't know reading the terms and conditions, that Eventbrite actually owns the customer information and you get a license to it. So, spoiler alert there. And then third, maintaining your branding. You all at TTM have done a really great job. I would notice your logo. I notice your colors everywhere. But if you wanted to host an event on Eventbrite, for example, all that stuff goes away. It's Eventbrite's branding, right? And then from there, at the very bottom of your page, you can say, hey, I'm hosting this event. But at the bottom, Eventbrite's going to say, hey, so-and-so that came and found Matt's page, here are 4 other events that you may also be interested in. And so you work so hard to get that consumer to your page, only for them to potentially leave. And so for me, I think the challenge there is that you aren't necessarily able to maintain the ownership of that customer identity. And so that's where we try and think through it. And so our big focus now, honestly, with COVID is, how do we help make sure that folks are vaccinated, make sure people are getting testing if they want to have it. So we've been leveraging our technology to actually help run vaccination registrations, as well as making sure that testing is going to happen. And so all tech that we'd already built, and more so thinking about as you talked about, greater good for society, making sure we're part of that equation. So as we saw many manufacturers, automotive companies and retail manufacturers switch to making masks and PPE, that's what happened in 2020. I think a lot of software companies have the opportunity to say, how do we participate in this ecosystem to make sure that folks are getting the information they need, as well as, in some cases, the treatment or testing they need to actually get back to some of the live events that you and I both care about. So right now, our focus is on the COVID-19 pandemic, and how do we help get folks vaccinated, get folks tested, and leverage our tech to do it.
Yeah, so branding is everything to me. I mean, everything I do is branding. My phone, the walls here. I got my sticker from Sticker Mule. This thing is awesome.
Nice.
Why? It's a fat, basically a fathead. I know it's like the Q-tip, we call it, or a Kleenex. I just call them fatheads, but it's a Sticker Mule. It's a different company, and I love Sticker Mule. They offer some good stuff. It's good to. I love connecting with good people, good causes, and good organizations, and obviously, I see the things that you're doing, and it's, I want to help wherever I can. And look, I do things for people because I think it's the right thing to do. But if you do the right thing and keep helping and doing, it should circle back to you, right? And so even if you don't want to do it because you like helping, just do it because it's the right thing to do. And you never know what could happen. So to that end, I know you're a part of a lot of other organizations, whether you're an angel investor or you're on the board of directors, right, or board of advisors.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more, because I don't know the specifics. Tell me a little bit more about the companies that you've invested in and that you're supporting in that way.
Yeah. So obviously, the startup founder, I know a lot of other startup founders, people who are working on startups. And so typically when a company is raising money from, an angel investor or venture capital, they normally put together these investor updates, which can be monthly, they could be biweekly, they could be, every quarter, where you talk about the highlights of what the company's accomplished, challenges you went through, and maybe what you learned through them. And normally when a firm is considering an investment in a company, they review those investor updates, and then they do the pitch deck, and then they have the conversations. That's the startup putting its best foot forward every single time, right? And I completely get it. That's what we try to do as well. But as a startup founder myself and an operator, I get to see that founder when they're at their lowest. They call me at 1 o'clock in the morning, or they text me and ask me if they can bounce something off me. And so not only do you see the fancy investor update where everything's looking great and this is how much they grew and this is what they learned, but I'm able to see, like, man, you did all of these things in the investor update, but while this other thing was going on, or overcoming these challenges. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. I was like, well, how do I support more companies? And I get it. Like, most people can't invest in startups in a meaningful way. And I think learning it is just figuring out, like, well, how can you support them? And I can talk about that in a little bit too. But when it comes to the actual investing, I've been able to invest in my first company ever was a CPG, a consumer product good company called Partake Foods. Now they're backed by Jay-Z and Rihanna. They're the largest Black-owned cookie company in the country. They just got into Kroger. They're in Whole Foods. They're everywhere.
They go on Shark Tank or something? How'd they get big?
They got big just grassroots. This was a mom who had a daughter who had really severe food allergies. She was working at Coca-Cola. She ends up quitting her job to really focus on this cookie company she was creating, selling cookies out of her trunk, selling cookies at the farmer's market, and then got into a Whole Foods, and then got into some other grocers, and then going direct to consumer, selling on the website, and then gets picked up by Target, and then gets picked up by Sprouts and all these other organizations. And so it was really grassroots. And so naturally, if I was able to participate, I wanted to. And so she actually allowed me to invest. So I invested in that company. Other companies that I've been really passionate about. One is called Gooder, which is a company that what I've loved is what they do in the community. That's GOODR, where they're helping corporations not only get rid of food that they would be wasting by giving it to the community members, but they also have software to help them manage their tax credits and gain value in supporting their community. So they've done partnerships with Porsche in giving away food in Atlanta, Georgia, to folks who you've seen these food bank lines. Like, they're insane all across the country. There's a lot of people hurting. And so I love what Jasmine Crowe and her team are doing over at Gooder. There's another company called Stix, STIX, where they created not only pregnancy tests and ovulation kits, but also now they've got UTI medication and UTI treatment stuff. 2 women founders in Philadelphia. So being able to I invest, like I said, in women, people of color, Black founders. I like to invest earlier stage. But I think the biggest thing is just understanding that there's a market need, and not only you're doing good business, but you're doing good for the community. So Stix is focusing on women and their health. Good is focusing on the hunger crisis and the challenge. And then what Partake's doing is thinking about an entire group of people who may be left out of some of the things because they have these severe food allergies. And I love the cookies. So it's not like, oh, they taste weird. So that's the kind of thing I think about when I think about the companies that I back.
Yeah. So, and some of them you offer your time, your equity partner, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I think about that too. Is everyone can't invest, and sometimes you're able to say hey, I'm going to help guide you through this challenge that you're working through, and that helps too. So that's been really, really great. So
I'd love to get into that. I still have some stuff to go. Chelsea Grayson had a Clubhouse room yesterday where they were talking about CEOs and hire CEO. I forget the term she used. Hire a CEO. It was like a CEO for hire or
a fractional CEO.
Yeah, it was something I forget what it was. I'll have to ask her. She's supposed to come get back to me on something. But I'm big on social responsibility and social justice. Mental health is a big thing for me with the Same Here organization.
Yeah.
There's so much that so many people and so many organizations and causes that need help. How do you determine where your money and time goes? Obviously people of color that's a big thing for you, as you can tell just by what you're doing. But outside of that, what else is something that you champion for and would like to get or are more involved in or would want to get more involved in if you can, you can?
Yeah, there's an organization in Greenville, South Carolina that I'm on the board for called Rebuild Upstate. Everyone is really familiar with Habitat for Humanity, an incredible organization that helps put families into houses. One of the things I love about Rebuild Upstate, and I anchor with the Habitat example so that we can make a comparison. While Habitat makes a house for that family, Rebuild doesn't make a new house. They just go and make repairs on old houses. And so you can think about as property values are going up and you're seeing challenges of gentrification. And so all these different things, people may be forced out of their house due to the condition of them. And you think about, well, if your roof is leaking, what does that mean for the health of the person living in there? If your subfloor is falling apart, how dangerous is that for a person who's in a wheelchair? All these different challenges. And so Rebuild Upstate is a nonprofit that I'm super passionate about. Not only does it focus on restoring the dignity of folks to feel prideful in their home, but also making sure that we're able to make their home more functional. So we make wheelchair ramps, we'll do siding, we'll do roofs, we'll do subfloors. And it's awesome. And so I've had several different groups where I coordinate with groups of friends. We'll go out and spend 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours building an entire wheelchair ramp, like a 30-foot ramp. and do these different things. And so for me, I don't know how well I do, I guess, about evaluating which new organizations I'm going to support. I think Rebuild's been one that I've been super passionate about for a while. But ultimately, I think that once I find it, an organization or two, I just kind of stick with them and go with it. But that to me is one of the best organizations on the planet. And I hope that as they grow, they can, move into other geographies to help more and more people.
Well, I'm going to connect you with LexisNexis, because when I worked at LexisNexis, we had an LN Cares events where we would just do team building. We would go do stuff, whether it's work at a children's thing to paint or to put together packages to give out for food. And they did have some stuff with Habitat for Humanity where they would build on houses. So I think once people get back into doing it, they would be a good organization that would. They're so big and there's so many teams that they would probably be able to get you a group of people to come help.
I would love it. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, especially during a pandemic, you're outside, so it's not a big of a challenge. In most cases, you're wearing your mask because you would be overall because you're around all this stuff. You're outside. So a great opportunity, a fantastic organization. And yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who's interested in helping with the housing challenge of making sure our neighbors are living in quality housing.
Yeah. So, the time goes quick here. We got some other things I want to talk about. So let's move on to college football, obviously, or college athletics, really, because I'm a Gator fanatic. I love all Gator sports.
Yep.
Are you like that with Clemson, or is it just football?
I'm like that with Clemson. I've got to figure out how to get the gray women's softball jersey. They don't sell them, and they're fire, and I need it. And so actually, I'm going to probably make some phone calls today because I need to get my hands on the women's softball jersey, the gray ones.
What have you been to events? What's the sport that you've been? Obviously football, but like, have you traveled for other events, for championships for Clemson?
Yeah, well, so Clemson, definitely Clemson football, Clemson basketball, Clemson baseball, the women's softball team, fantastic. Fraternity brother of mine was on the track team, so definitely remember the times doing that. But yeah, I mean, so when I was going to high school, my top two choices, as I narrowed it down, were University of Florida and Clemson. And this was 2004. So I would have been there for all the titles for the Titletown chase. So the challenge was I was in South Carolina. So I would have to go out of state to Florida. And I didn't know anyone who was going there. And then a year later, one of my best friends, she ended up going to Florida. And I was like, had I known you were going to go, I would have went a year early and just toughed it out. And I still remember touring the University of Florida's campus on a rainy day and thinking, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. It was
so many great. I mean, it is, but there's so many campuses out there. I mean, we did a West Coast tour when my sister was looking, like San Diego and San Diego State and Arizona State. It's like, it's heaven, really. But I think you're better off.
Yeah.
If you're older now, you can appreciate the championships more now and be relevant now than when I was in school. We were in 2 championship games. We got our butt kicked by Nebraska, which is still the best football team I've ever seen in college football. And then we beat Florida State for the championship.
You think that Nebraska team is better than like the 0-1 Miami team?
I think the Nebraska teams, I think they're better than any other team out there, yeah. They destroyed everybody. I mean, and the way they destroyed us, I mean, they beat everyone by 30. Their offense was unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think that Miami team.
It's tough.
I think that Miami team is unstoppable. But yeah, so I'm a huge Clemson fan, big Clemson fan.
So if, let's say, Dabo retires tomorrow, who would you want to coach your team?
If Dabo retires tomorrow, who would I want to coach our team? Maybe somebody like so I like the polarizing aspect of Dabo because, I mean, some people, we love him. Lane is an interesting guy, and I think that would be fun just because he would be our guy. So I'll just go out there and say Kiffin and just make it crazy.
I don't want anywhere near my team, but that's just me. I don't want Calipari being near my team either. So,
You said who? Oh, Calipari?
Or
Yeah. So but fortunately, Dabo, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. I'm one of the folks who doesn't think he leaves to go to Alabama, even if Saban retires. He's got the statue he's built already.
Yeah, it'd be silly to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, you don't want to do that. I haven't. So we saw down here, Clemson played at Florida in a December game at the Orange Bowl Classic a few years ago, and you guys beat us. You have a pretty decent program there. It's tough to navigate through the ACC. Are you guys going to be in the tournament in March?
We should be. I think we're 13-5, 14-5 right now. I think we're projected as like an 8 seed.
Okay, so you're right in there.
Yeah, so we should be up here. I mean, overall, I think that the thing about the Clemson basketball team is that they're so wildly unpredictable sometimes. Like
join the club.
Before the pandemic pause that we had to take, we looked pretty hot, and then I think we came out and lost like 3 straight or 3 out of 4, something crazy, and then last week or this weekend we beat Georgia Tech on a crazy buzzer beater by honor. And so overall, I think that it'll be interesting to see us get in, but definitely been keeping up with the Brad Brownell stories of like this guy's got this team motivated and focused on
what do they need to do to take. So it's a good point that you brought up, because the Gator fans want to fire Mike White.
Yeah.
Like who do you think we are? Like who do you think we can get? And it's like and Clemson is not even at the level that the Gators are at, and the Gators are what's going to take Clemson to the next level?
You're right.
They don't need a new coach. He needs to recruit better, right? And then
you got to find some gems. So like the thing about it is like, and I agree with you. I think that one thing that's crazy about fan bases is how irrational we are, fanatics and the whole thing. And you're like, we should fire so-and-so and go get, whoever, Coach K. It's like, dude, do you understand who your fan base is? Like that person's not coming here. Who are you going to get? And that's the thing I've always thought was interesting. The one thing that the one thing that's been tough about Brownell is that, yeah, you're right. To do what Dabo did for football, not only do you have to recruit a couple of amazing players who just fall in love with you, the Deshaun Watsons of the group, but then you got to get some people and say they're gonna work harder and be even better than we expected them to be. And like we recruited him at this point, Hunter Renfrow, that's a walk-on, and then goes and has more touchdowns against Alabama than anyone else. Like you have to pull all that out of them. And so like for us as Clemson, missing on like Ja Morant or Zion in South Carolina, like Zion went to Duke and he had Clemson in his final, which is great. Ja Morant went to where did he go? Was he a Shocker?
Didn't he go to Marquette?
I don't know if he went to Marquette. Something with gold. I can't remember where he went.
He wasn't a Shocker.
He wasn't a Shocker. Anyways, Ja Morant went wherever. It wasn't Clemson. It wasn't South Carolina. And so that's where maybe someone will help us out.
And now the new trend is to go to the HBCU.
I don't know if that's a true trend. I mean, Maker went there, and I don't know if he's actually been playing. I think that the power dynamic approach that this conversation has had is like we need to have more Black athletes go to HBCUs. I think it'll be interesting to see what infrastructure changes to make that happen. Because what I don't like,
more, right? You got to get more, and you got to win.
Well, not even that. Well, yes, you got to get more, you got to win. But I think that the onus on the player. What you're asking, what we as the community is saying, we should go to HBCUs is asking, is that 17 or 18-year-old is saying, hey, I want you to carry the brunt of this and go into this capitalistic organization called the NCAA and trade away some of these other things and go do this. And I think that's a challenge, but I'd love to see more alum. One of the organizations we donate to, or institutions, we donate to Howard. My wife is a Howard alum, and so we donate to Howard University annually. And now we're trying to get to the point where we're donating at the same rate that we donate to Clemson. Clemson's endowment is actually very close to the same size as Howard's, right? So Clemson University, top 30, top 40, whatever public university. You think about Howard University, historically Black college, they have comparable sized endowments. And so that shows you that there's a lot of opportunity for both of them to grow, and we're just trying to figure out ways to amplify them.
Yeah, I mean, so the top players, it's not really a risk for, but now you got to figure out those guys. Are they taking a risk who might be the end of the first round or the beginning of the second round?
Yeah.
They go to Duke, or there, it's millions of dollars. So that's where you have to. It has to be enough. It can't just be one person here and there.
Yeah, of course.
I want to talk about food. I know you're a big foodie. You do a lot on the grill. Let's talk about Austin food first. I've been there a couple of times. My favorite places are One in a Million for breakfast.
Okay.
Barbecue was my favorite barbecue. Although
barbecue.
And then Salty Sal was my favorite sit-down nice dinner.
I don't think I've had Salty Sal. Yeah, so there's one of my favorite spots. It's called Suerte. It's amazing food. I can't even remember how to describe it because it's been so long since the pandemic. But they make these amazing tacos. It's fantastic. The margaritas, the drinks are fantastic. It's a great restaurant. But I mean, here in Austin, it's been really interesting. Like the food scene's so awesome. You know, there's some folks who like La Barbecue, some folks who like these other ones, and so overall, what I've appreciated is like there's something for everyone here. My favorite Jamaican spot is like 15 minutes away. There's a Trinidadian restaurant somewhere. So it's been really cool. But like being down here, especially during the pandemic, I was like, we should get a big green egg so I can like cook and smoke out food. And so there's Franklin's Barbecue, which is super notable. That guy, Aaron Franklin, has a master class. And so I bought the big green egg last spring, and I got a masterclass of membership to where I could learn how to do food like from Aaron Franklin. It was cool. So I'm making brisket, making ribs, pulled pork, all of that. And
what's your favorite thing to cook on the egg?
I love making wings. Like chicken. I'm making wings like once a week these days. Put a little indirect. What was that?
Smoked wings or buffalo wings?
Smoked wings. Smoke, they are perfect. I figured it out perfectly. I use my lump charcoal. I've got the big blowtorch, and so I light it in the center and give it a little bit, and then I put the indirect plate there so that it's not directly heating them. And I season them literally salt, pepper, and a couple other little things, and amazing.
I got an embarrassing story to tell you. I bought a Green Mountain pellet grill.
Okay.
My friend loves. He swears by it. So I cook chicken wings. That was my first thing I cook.
Yeah.
Like I go to clean it because I forgot to do the thing, and I realized that I installed it wrong because the tray will not come out. So now I have to undo the whole tray. And we haven't done it yet, but I don't have time. I haven't had time to do it. My wife and I are gonna have to like put this thing on its side and undo it. But I'm looking forward to cooking. We love cooking chicken wings on there.
Yeah.
I'm a rub and not a sauce guy. It sounds like you are too.
Yeah, I'm a rub guy, but there is a sauce that I love. It's actually one of those companies I invested in. It's called Sienna Sauce, and they're going to be on Shark Tank this Friday.
All right, nice.
So woman-owned, family-owned. I think the CEO is like 17, and her mom made this barbecue sauce because, or not they don't call it barbecue sauce. They call it anything sauce. So I want to make sure I get corrected. They made this sauce because their favorite spot in New York City was going out of business, and they wanted to make the same kind of sauce to go in their wings, and they started making them. And so they did an equity crowdfunding campaign on Republic, where anyone can invest. I think as little as $100. And so now they're going to be on Shark Tank this Friday, and I guess you'll see how it works out. But I think that when I use sauces, I'm using something like theirs, but normally I'm more of a dry rub person.
You're gonna be annoyed when they don't take the one deal, and you're like, I wanted you to take that deal, and I have a piece of this thing. So is there any? Food? I love like a nice ribeye, a nice fat, the good fat that just melts that you'll eat and not have to cut off. Is there any foods that you find yourself not ordering? And again, there's no real eating out so much, but not ordering out as much because you just rather it's much better and cook it the way you want it.
Yeah, exactly. It's steak. It's a ribeye. So are you familiar with like doing a sous vide?
Yeah.
Sous vide process. Yeah. So like, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, this is foolproof cooking. The French curated it, whereas they're like, oh, you put the food into a Ziploc bag, or normally you vacuum seal it and you submerge it in water and you cook it perfectly. And that was the thing. I was always afraid to cook steak years ago because I was like, I'm going to overcook this. And then with a sous vide, I could put it, in fact, I have a vacuum sealer. I've got like 3 sous vides, and I get a ribeye. I do salt and pepper on each side. I put a tab of butter. I do sage and rosemary, vacuum seal it in, put it into the water, and cook it at like 130 degrees for about an hour and a half. Take it out, pat it dry, and then I throw it on the cast iron skillet with some butter, another thing, a sprig of rosemary, some sage, sear, and I'm done. Or I throw it on the big green egg, where quick on the grill, quarter turn to get the marks, flip, quarter turn to get the marks, and I take it off.
I like it. My wife did some sous vide egg bites at one point.
I need the recipe. I don't know, like, how do you do it? Because I want to do.
It doesn't come out the way you want it to.
It doesn't.
Professional. I'll send you the thing that she used, but it still tastes good, but I'm more of a, I don't really care what something looks like. I know the stuff that you do is very pretty. Right.
Well, so the things I post on social, yes, are very pretty because I know that no one else gets to eat it. And so I want people to be like, that looks amazing. He's probably a better cook. That's all signal. But no, I would definitely eat the sous vide eggs because that's the thing. I don't know how, because the bag floats. So what are y'all using to get it to stay on the bottom of?
I feel like there was a thing, like the poached, they have the new poached things that you could buy.
Yeah.
I thought it was something to do with that. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, I need that because I want to make some of those breakfast things. Because that's the thing is that when people see my social media, my Instagram or Twitter, I'm posting like barbecue, I'm posting these steaks. But what I'm not posting is like a salmon salad that I had or some quinoa and asparagus and artichokes that I have. So, that those things I don't think are as like interesting or sexy to post, but I definitely love them too.
Yeah, we love, and cooking is so easy to do. I don't know why people think it's just about experimenting. Because you said I perfected my wings, but it probably took you 10 to 12 different things to get it. And they all still taste good as long as you don't like burn them. Like, all right, I like this flavor more than I like this flavor. I put too much or I put too little. And
exactly.
So yeah, I'm excited to fix my broken pellet grill and start cooking all kinds of stuff. We do a lot in the slow cooker. We cooked the corned beef the other day, and it's so easy. Right?
What's your aspirational thing? Like, what's one thing you're gonna like push yourself to try to make?
I don't know. So something in the lamb family, maybe. I like a rack of lamb to make it the way, because it's hard. Part of it is hard to buy, like to make it the way you have it in the restaurant, and that's why you order things in the restaurant. But when you do something that's as good, you're like, I don't want to pay $75 for this steak when I can make it myself. So we've bought lamb and stuff, but it's either not as good a quality as what they're getting.
Right.
But, sometimes it's hard to find the quality. There's such a range of what is good beef that could be like, some stuff's not that expensive, but some of it's like really expensive. Now you got to figure out like, hey, do I want to buy this? It's like crazy when you think about talk about Jamaican beef patties, which I love.
Yeah.
And you see someone selling them for like $5 a piece, and you're like, $5 each?
Yeah, but at $5, you're like, I can make this. My brother's a chef. My older brother's a chef, Andre, and he can make beef patties. And so he makes all kinds of stuff. And so that's cool. But I agree with you. Like, there's some things where it's like, do I want to spend $40 on this excellent cut of beef and potentially screw it up? Or do I just want to pay $70 and know that they're cooking it properly? And so my big push last year was duck. My wife wanted to have duck for Christmas, and so and which is wild. I don't know if you ever bought a duck, but I went to this Chinese grocery store where I didn't pay attention to the package, but I got the duck and I was like, oh, it's a duck, perfect. Took it out to like salt it so I could do a salt brine for 2 days. It was the entire duck, like head, beak, feet. And I was like, man, this is a trip. Like this is a lot to deal with.
Roast a pig. Have you ever roasted a pig in a box?
Yeah, so I've roasted. Yeah, so Clemson. So every year at Clemson, when I was there, we would roast for the major sports game. Not when I was there. After I graduated, when we were good, we would pick a big game. So Notre Dame versus Clemson in 15. Notre Dame versus Louisville, I think it's 16. Some of these other games, we would get a box, roast an entire pig, and we'd name it. So Notre Dame, I think it was Bobby.
Did you pick out your own pig? Because that's what my friends. I'm like, no, thanks. You get the pig, and I'll.
Yeah, my other fraternity brothers, they got the pig, and we're over here like garbage bags in the house, and they're trying to flip it over, and it's massive, and you're trying to like get its jaw open to put something there, and it's craziness. But no, we've definitely done pigs. I plan on doing a small pig on Big Green Egg. So that's one of the things I'll do this year. Well, the duck was like my reach. So I sous vide the duck for 40 hours, whole duck, head off, feet off, seasoned it with like oranges and stuff, sous vide it for 40 hours, took it out, and it's basically about to fall apart. So I had to put it on this little vegetable grill thing, a vegetable tray. And then I put that onto the smoker, perfect color, skin crisped up. It was fantastic.
I love it. Chinese. I really only order duck in a Chinese restaurant when it's crispy.
Yeah, it was amazing. That was the recipe I was like trying to like recreate. And that's the thing. Like if you love good food, you're just trying to think through like, how would you do this if I was going to do it? And you just kind of unpack it.
Yeah, and just keep like messing with it. Just try it, and try something else. Try something that's like a weird combination. That's what we keep doing. Well, look, we could talk. I could talk food all day, every day. I want to talk. We do a little bit of a rapid fire and ask you some questions. Do you have a favorite movie? What are some of your favorite movies?
Transformers, the movie from 1985, the cartoon original. That was still one of my favorites. Coming to America, fantastic movie. Know all those lines in that. Oh, there you go. Oh, wow. How did you have that just on deck?
This is my Tyler Smith, excellent fan artist. I do some work with him, and he created this, and he sells these. I'm excited for the second one. There was a commercial in the Super Bowl, and I went like this.
Yeah, I don't know
about it.
I don't know if I want to watch it. Like, I really don't. I don't even want to ruin it. Like, I just think like it should stay. I probably will watch it. I'm just very, very concerned.
Yeah, my opinion is that if Eddie and Arsenio play multiple characters, that it's going to be good. It's not going to be as good as the first,
right?
But it'll be good.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch it, of course.
Yeah. We'll see. Those are two of my favorites. That's so random. Please send me the link for that. I want to check that out.
Yeah, it's what would you be doing? Did you grow up wanting to do something that an astronaut, a doctor?
I was gonna be a lawyer.
What kind of law?
I hadn't really even focused on it because by that time I'd already changed my mind. But I think that if I wasn't doing this right now, I'd probably be working academics. Like I one of my aspirations, like my dream job at the end of all of this, is to go back and be like the dean of the College of Business at my alma mater at Clemson. I think that as a first generation American, as the first person in my family to go to college and to graduate from 4-year institution, that would be an awesome circle story of going back to the
I mean, you're on your way. You got some good inroads. You got some connections. Certainly, your involvement with the university is a good start.
Yeah, let's hope we can pull it off. It's a little bit of experience and networking, the whole nine.
What's on your bucket list for sports and travel?
Yeah, so bucket list for sports. A buddy of mine, his name's Eric, actually did he did all of them in 1 year. National championship, Super Bowl, Final Four, NBA, NHL. He did all of them 1 year. I think they wrote about him in the news too. So for me, I think my biggest thing is that I do want to go to a WrestleMania. I hear that is like one of the most electric ones ever. Obviously, I missed out on the days of The Rock and Steve Austin and some of these other folks.
About wrestling, my last guest, Joe Issei from the Portland Trailblazers?
I don't.
He was on the Wolff Den on Friday, and we started talking wrestling a little bit. Who's your favorite wrestler?
Probably The Rock. Not just because of what he was as a wrestler, but I just think that dude has figured out a way to have most people have a second act. He has like 5. He was on a national championship Miami team. Then he tried to play pros and was in Canadian football. Then he gets cut, and then he makes it as a wrestler and is a star. Then he becomes a legend as an actor.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor. And now he's got a shoe deal with Under Armour, and now he owns the XFL. Like, it's insane.
Did you watch the fan-controlled football league last weekend?
No, I didn't. I did not know it started. FCFL?
FCFL.
Oh, I didn't know it started. I knew because doesn't Marshawn Lynch have a team?
He does. We'll talk. I'll send you some stuff about what happened Friday night. Marshawn Lynch was dropping some vulgar language, but it was pretty funny. He joined the broadcast. And
what channel is it? Well, what does it come on?
On Twitch.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll have to check it out. I remember when I feel like they were doing that. Like,
it was entertaining. It was definitely entertaining. We'll see if it sticks. Obviously, the first weekend you have anything is always should always do well, and
right.
They got some good people involved. Patrick Dees is one of the founders of it, and he's doing some great things. So excited to see where that goes. How about a bucket list for travel?
So my wife and I were supposed to go to Europe last year. We're going to go to Italy and to Paris. So I definitely want to go to Italy and go have some pasta and some good wine. So that's definitely it.
There too.
Yeah. Well, there's actually a company that will let you order pizza from Italy, and they like dry freeze it and ship it here. So they make it there and do all that. So we've added actually pretty good pizza. But they have pizza different from the U.S. Like in
Yeah.
the U.S., they got all this sauce and whatever. Like there, it's like the crust is just fantastic.
I had like a carbonara pizza. It was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would be all about that. So Italy is definitely on the list. We were supposed to go last May for 10 days. No, like almost 2 weeks. So like 17 days. And
next year, maybe.
Next year, 2022.
That would be great. All right. Well, I always get everyone off the program with one last question, and it has to be someone who's living.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anyone you want. You got 24 hours to spend with them. Who are you spending it with, and what are you guys doing? And I say that because my goal is to get someone to make this happen for them. One of the people. So Joe gave I forget his name. It was a wrestler from Saudi Arabia.
Huh.
And so
Iron Sheik?
No, he's a new guy. He's
new guy. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, sheesh. A person who's living that I want to spend an entire day with, that'd be pretty cool. I'm gonna go with the popular choice and go with like Barack Obama.
Yeah, that was
because I think that dude off script, like not recorded, is probably even better than he is on script. And so I think that navigating the things he had to do to become all the things he's become and leading a family and all of this stuff, like that'd be a pretty interesting day.
That would be my choice.
Yeah.
What would you do with him? Probably very similar to what I would do.
So I think in the morning we would probably go and do some basketball because I know he plays. He probably watch me.
How cool is that shot? He just does the shot and walks off. President of the United States. It's crazy.
It's amazing. But I think that I would do that. But then barbecue. Yeah. We'd probably, what I would actually do, honestly, is we would get up, set the fire, and put on a brisket. Then go play basketball while the brisket's getting started, and throughout the day, just tell stories around the Big Green Egg about family, navigating challenges, professional, all the other stuff. And then at the end of the day, get our families together and have a great meal. That'd be awesome.
I'd love to meet him. It would be. Yeah. I just would love to, especially if you could have that off the record type.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's celebrities and there's public figures and there's just stuff they can say and stuff they can't say, and they know that.
Yeah.
We want to get the real person. That's the whole thing about being a politician is you can't. It's really hard to be the real person because you won't get elected.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the tough piece.
Right?
Yeah, that's the tough piece for sure. So, but yeah, man, this has been a blast, and that would be my answer. I hadn't thought about that, but that would be awesome.
Tell everybody how they can connect with you, how they can support you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you all want to learn more about what we're building at Bandwagon, just go to bandwagonfanclub.com. And if you're interested in the random pictures of food and commentary I make on social, you can follow me at OneBandwagonFan. Ultimately, we want to help bring people together around amazing live events in person or virtual. So thanks for the time, man. We really appreciate it. This has been a blast.
Tell them, give them your Clubhouse name.
Oh, if you're on Clubhouse, I'm at Startup. Like I was on early, so I was able to get Startup as my handle. So search Harold Hughes or Startup, and you will find me pretty much every day of the week on Clubhouse. I'm a big fan.
Invite. He's starting to sell them at $39. Is that what?
Please do not get me kicked off of Clubhouse. I'm not sure.
I appreciate you coming. Great to talk. We'll finish this conversation and we'll talk down the road. But welcome to the Wolff Den. We'll see you guys. We have some guests later in the week. We're doing an open to work event on LinkedIn tomorrow for people who are hiring and looking for work. And follow Harold and see what he's doing. And we'll see you guys. Have a great day.
See y'all.